Hi, in this tutorial I will give an overview of ASP.NET Core with Razor and SQL Server. So basically we are going to create a simple or basic application, web application using this ASP.NET Core with Razor framework. And we will use SQL Server and create a basic database, and then we will retrieve the data that are stored in the database within this web application. So here is a short contents of this tutorial. First, a short introduction to the application that we are going to create, and then a short overview of ASP.NET Core and the ASP.NET Core with Razor. Then we start with SQL Server. We will set up the SQL Server database. We will create a database and a basic table within SQL Server using this SQL Server Management Studio. Then finally we will start creating our application. So we will create an ASP.NET Core Razor application that retrieves data from the SQL Server database. Let's start with our short introduction. So this is the application that we are going to create. We are using Visual Studio and the C# programming language, and we are using the ASP.NET Core web development framework from Microsoft. And we will use the template called ASP.NET Core Razor web application. Basically, this application contains of two web pages. This is the start page. Here you just get an overview. It's basically a just simple company application that should list available companies. So it's just a silly dummy application just to show how we can retrieve data from the database. So here, when you click here in the start page, you just click on company here in the header or on this hyperlink. Then you retrieve or get this new page called company list, where you just inside a HTML table retrieve data that are stored in the database, in this case SQL Server from Microsoft. So basically ASP.NET Core is a framework for web development. It's part of the .NET family, and it's developed by Microsoft, and you typically use it within Visual Studio, and you use the C# as a programming language. Typically in ASP.NET Core Razor code, the layout are separated into two files. So the code and the layout are in two different files. You have the layout file that has the extension .cshtml, and then you have the code code behind file that has the extension cs.html.cs, where cs is short for C#, meaning the C# programming language will be used. This layout file, this cs.html file, is also it's basically just called the Razor page, and it's using something called Razor syntax, and basically Razor syntax is more or less C# code that are mixed within the HTML code in this Razor page. So ASP.NET Core is a framework for building web application, but you can also build different types of services, etc. And you are using this .NET and the C# programming language in combination with Visual Studio. ASP.NET Core supports different types. So we will use this ASP.NET Core with Razor pages, which will be the focus in this tutorial, but you have also other versions of ASP.NET Core that you can use. You have something called Model View Controller, you have Blazor web applications. You can also create web APIs or REST APIs using different templates, like this web API with controllers and these minimal web APIs. But the focus in this tutorial will be using ASP.NET Core with Razor pages, and we are going to create a basic application that are retrieving data from an SQL Server database. So then let's start with SQL Server. So you can use any kind of SQL Server edition from Microsoft, but in this tutorial I will use this SQL Server Express It's a free version of SQL Server that has enough features that can be so you don't need a full version of SQL Server. You can just use this SQL Server Express. This is a free version of SQL Server, which is good enough for this purpose. SQL Server Express comes in two parts. You have the SQL Server Express in general, which is just a database engine that is running in the background on your computer. But in order to create databases, create tables, insert some data, retrieve or modify data, etc., you also need this SQL Server Management Studio, shortened SSMS. This is a separate installation that you also need to install in addition to the SQL Server itself. So in our tutorial, we are just going to create a very simple table in SQL Server. The table is called company. It consists of three columns: company ID, which is just a primary key with an identity 11. It's basically just a running number that increases with 1 every time you insert a new row into the database. And then you have the company name and a website. So a basic table called company. So let's go to SQL Server Management Studio and create the necessary database and the necessary table. So now I have this SQL Server Management Studio up and running here. And here on the left side we have the different databases. Let's start by just right-click on databases to create a new database. You can call the database whatever you like, but since this is a company database containing different companies, etc., I just call it work or something. You can call it whatever you like and click OK. Let me see. I got an error message because I already have a database called work, so I renamed the old database to work2 or something, and then let's try once more. So create a database called work, click OK. Okay, still I can just then call it something else. I just deleted my old database, so let's try once more. Work, click OK. And now it's working. So now here in the list of databases we have this work database. Then I can click on new query because now this is empty. So now I want to insert this employee table, which I have here, or sorry, the company table, which consists of company ID, company name and website. So then I can just click here on execute, make sure that I have selected this work database, click execute, and then I can open the work database, go to tables, and then I see how this company database here. So next now is to insert some data into that database. So then I can just click new query, and then I just have some already made here. So then we just insert some data into this company table, insert into company, company name, website, and then we have different companies like USN, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and their belonging websites like this. As you see, we don't need to insert this company ID because this is set up as an identity 11, so it's automatically created. So let's just run these SQL scripts by clicking this execute button, and now we can right click here on the company, select top 1000 rows like this, and then you see some data has been entered into this database. So then we have company ID 1, USN, and the website 2, Google, Facebook, etc. So now we have a working database called work, and it has a company table with some data within. So now we should be ready to start creating our ASP.NET Core web application that are retrieving these data into the web application. So now we have created our database in SQL Server Management Studio. Now we are ready to start using Visual Studio and start creating our ASP.NET Core Razor app. So basically then we just open Visual Studio, and in the template we are going to create our project. We just need to select the ASP.NET Core Web App Razor pages. So let's go to Visual Studio and start creating our application. So now I open my Visual Studio. I just here in the startup window select create a new project. Then you can select between lots of different templates. I just start by searching for this ASP.NET Core templates. And as mentioned, you can create different types of application using ASP.NET Core. You can create different types of applications or services. We are going to use this one, ASP.NET Core Web App with Razor Pages, using the C# programming language. So then just click Next. Then we need to have a proper name for our application. We are going to create a company application. So I just call it company app or something. Then I just need to select a proper location or a folder on my hard drive. I just have a folder here created in a temporary folder called ASP.NET Core, where I'm going to put this company app application. And then just click Next. Here you have different options. You can choose which framework that you're going to use. Typically you just want to use the latest version. You can also specify if you want to use HTTPS or not. This is just a basic dummy application, so I just remove it and just leave everything else. Click Create in order to create this ASP.NET Core web application project in Visual Studio. So then let's open Visual Studio here. Like this. And then by default we have created this solution and this project within Visual Studio. It contains of different folders and different files. The main part here is this under pages, where we are having our different web pages or Razor pages. So let's just run this application and see how this default template look like. So I just click here to run the application, and then it will be open in my default web browser. And it looks something like this. So here you have the name of the application, company app, and here you have a welcome page. This is the index.cs HTML file. So here you can change the contents, do whatever you like, and you also have a header and a footer that you can set up. So then later I will have a, instead of privacy here I will create a company page that you can click on in order to get this list from the database. So then we start by creating a new web page where you can list all the data from the database. I can just call it company or something. So here on the pages I just right click, add, and new Razor page. Click add here, and then we need to specify a name for our page, and then I can just call it company like this. And now it's created. We will create more code here later, but first we just want this company page to appear in our header. So then here on the shared we need to go into this layout page. So I double click on this one. So here in the layout page we define the layout of our application. So here you have this, you see this header part where home and privacy, and here in the bottom we have this footer part. So here footer, and here we have the header. So now I don't need this privacy page which you find here. It's just some dummy page created by the template. The same with error. So basically don't need those, but I just leave them. But I want to, instead of privacy here, I want to show this new company page. So I just type here company. That's the text that you want to appear on the web page. And here you specify the name of the page, which is also company in this case. So this is this web page, company.cs.html, like this. So now I can just run my application once more. And you see here I have this startup page, which is this index file, and now here I have a company which I can click on, and then I go into this company page. So far it's just blank, so let's just create a something here, then later we will retrieve data from the database. So here, if you start with the index page, which we have here, it's just entering some text. It's center this text. I can just remove this class. I just use an ordinary header, welcome. I can call it company application or something instead. And here this default text, learn about ASP.NET Core, etc. Just remove it and just type, this is a company app that will list all the companies in the database or something. That's the index file, and that's the starter file. And then let's go, I can just copy this text, go to this company page, and by default it's just empty, so I just instead of company app, here I can type company list or something, and then I just type some text here. Here we will show a list of all companies in the database or something. And then later I will insert the data here in an ordinary HTML table. But first we need to create some C# code that are retrieving the data from the database, and then later we will present that data here inside an HTML table. But let's now just run our application. So now we have this index file has changed to company app, and this company app will list all companies in the database, etc. And then you can click on the company, and then we go to the company page, and so far it just has a header, company list, and here we will show all the companies in the database. So now let's start to create some C# code to make it possible to retrieve data from this SQL Server database that we have created earlier. So in order to be able to retrieve data from this SQL Server database that we have created, we need to install a so-called NuGet package. So then I just click here in the solution on the project here, right click, select manage NuGet packages. So NuGet packages are just external code libraries that you typically need to install if you want to do some special stuff like retrieving data from a database, etc. So then here under browse I can just start searching for the package I need. The name of the package is called Microsoft.data.sql client. So then I just start by typing Microsoft.data, and then it appears in the list, Microsoft.data.sql client. That's the NuGet package you need in order to be able to communicate and retrieve or insert, update or delete data from an SQL Server database. So then I basically just click here, install, and click apply here, and accept, and that package is installed as part of your solution here. So if I go under dependencies, packages, you find this Microsoft data SQL client. So that's basically just a library of classes and methods that you can use in order to be able to retrieve data from this Microsoft SQL Server database. So now we should be ready to start creating the C# code for retrieving data from our SQL Server database. Typically, most of the code that we create, the C# code, should be put into classes and methods. So let's start by creating a new folder where we can put our classes. We have already a folder pages where we put our web pages like index and the company. These two pages are the two pages that we are going to use. So we need to create a new folder for our classes. So then I just click here, add new folder, and then specify. You can specify whatever name you like. I prefer using this name models, and put all our classes in within that that folder called models. So then I can just right click on models, click add, here class. So now we are going to create a new class where we are going to put our code for retrieving data from the database. Since we're dealing with a company app, we are going to retrieving company names and web pages from the database. I can just create a class called company like this. Sorry, company like this. Click add, and that class will be created here under this models folder. So now we are ready to start creating the code. So in order to save some time, I have just previously made the code in order to save time. So I just copy the necessary code in here. Basically, let's go through the code. I have created three properties here, one for the company ID and the company name and the website. These are the columns that are in our database table called company. And then we now want to retrieve the values that are stored into the database and store them into these properties here. Then I have created a method called getCompanies, which you see here. And that method will retrieve a list of companies. So it will retrieve a list of the company ID, company names, and website that are stored in the database. First thing we need to do is to specify a connection string to our database. It looks something like this. So string, connection string, and so the first part of the connection string is this data source, where in my case here, Hans Petter is the name of my computer, and SQL Express is the name of the instance of my SQL Server database. So if I go back here to this Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, so here you find the name. So this is the entire name of my database, Hans Petter and /SQL Express, like this. So I need to specify it here. Note here I need to have double slashes here. The next initial catalog is just the name of the database, which is work in this case. And then we need to just have some integrated security to true and trusted certificate equals to true. So in order to be able to connect to our database. So basically you just need to trust the database and the certificate like this. But the most important part here is the name of your database and the name of your SQL server and the name of your database like this. And then you just use this. Here are lots of methods, etc. that are built into this NuGet package we just installed. So we basically just create a new SQL connection using this connection string. And here we specify a query. And here we specify what we want to retrieve from the database. And then I just use this basic SQL query, select company ID, company name, and website from company. And then later we will put these values from the database into these properties, company ID, company name, and website. So then I just create an SQL command in order, and then use this execute read in order to be able to run this command and retrieve data from the database. Then I also create a list, because as you see here in SQL Server, we are going to retrieve this list of data with company IDs, company names, and website. So then we want to put this into a list of companies, which is these three parts. So basically we create a list of companies, and then since there are stored multiple records in the database, we need to use a while loop. and then we read one record at a time. So first we read this record, then this record, etc. until we are finished with all the records stored in the database. So that's what we are doing within this while loop. So then we are using this dr for data record. We retrieve the company ID and put it into the property company ID here. The next company name is a string, so we just use toString. While this company ID is an integer, so we need to convert to an integer. And finally, this website is also a string, so we just use the toString. And then we put the values that are coming from the database into this company ID, company name, and website. And then we add it to this list. So then in each iteration, we add one record or one row at a time until we are finished, and then the while loop will be finished, and then we just close the connection, and then we return the company list from this get companies method. So basically that's all you need in order to retrieve data from the database. You need to specify a connection string. You need to create a query to specify what you want to retrieve from the database, and then you just use a while loop in order to retrieve row by row and put it into a list of companies like this. So basically that's the C# class called company. So let's just save it. And now we are going to use that class and this method to retrieve that data into this web page. So now our class here, which we have created here, company.cs, is finished, hopefully. It may be some error there, but we take that later. Now we need to start creating the web page. So now we have already created the web page, company.cs.html. Here we also started to have some information here, company list, and then later here we will present the data from the database inside that HTML table. But first we need to go into this code behind file or page model file. So every Razor page has two files, one called in this case company.cs.html, and then we have the code behind file company.cs.html.cs. So this is the code that we need to start working on. And by default it just looks like this with a empty shell, and part of that file we have this onGet method. So basically every time a user requests a website, the code that are put into this onGet method will be executed on the server before it will be sent to the client. So then here basically also we now want to retrieve this company list that we have created in this company class. So then just here we need to specify a public and then we need to find this create a list of companies. And then I just use this list something like this. I use this IntelliSense and change some of it. So list of companies, and then I will create a company list like this equals to new list like this. So basically it's just calling the constructor, and I'm going to create a company list, which is a list of companies from this company class. Now you see you get some error here because I need to insert here a using from the company app. I need to specify where this where I can find this class company.cs. So then I just need to specify using company app.models like this. So now it seems to work. So make sure to include this one using company app.models, which is referring to this one, company app.models, and then we have the class company here. Oh, and now I just close it. Let's open it. This code behind file. Now we have created this one. Now inside this onGet method that we are going to call this get companies method inside the class. So then we just get some IntelliSense here. I just use this one. So then we create a new object of this class called company in order to be able to use that get companies method. And this get companies method was retrieving a list of companies that we are now putting into this company list that we have created here. Basically that's all the code you need. So it was just 3 lines of code. Here we need to specify a public company list, which we are going to use when you are presenting the data in the web page itself. And then here I need to specify an object of this company class in order to be able to use this get companies method, which was defined here in the company class and get companies method. And this one is returning this company list, which is a list of company names and websites and company IDs from the database. So now we need to just use that company list as part of our web page, which you find here, company.cshtml. So let's just open that one. So far it's more or less empty. It's just have a header, company list, and here we will show a list of companies in the database. So now let's create an HTML table where we are retrieving the data from the database. So now I just make room here to make or create this HTML table. So then I just use this table like this, and here you get some IntelliSense, more or less. So I just use this one and modify it. So here we have 3 parts that we want to show in this. So this will be the header of the table. Here we have the header. So we have company ID, we have company name, and finally we have this company website like this. So that's the header. And then in order to be able to retrieve data from this company list that we have created here, and also we have to make sure it's public in order to be able to retrieve that information here in this Razor page. So here we create the contents of the table inside this T body, and then we create 1 row at a time. So here we also need to remove some parts. And then since we are retrieving multiple values record by record, we need to use a for each here. And then we just create var company in model and not companies. It was just IntelliSense that was going crazy. So in order to be able to retrieve this company list here, which is defined as public, we need to use this model, because this file is defined as the page model file. So then it just a built-in feature in ASP.NET Core. We just need to use this model, and then I just type dot, and then here I should have access to this company list here. It will be available since this is public. If this company list was not public, it would not be accessible here. So make sure it's public. So then we have company dot, and then we have the company ID, here we want to have the company name, so then company name, which you find in the list here, and finally the website, so company dot website, which is also found here in the IntelliSense. So basically that's more or less it. Table, we also need to have a closing tag for the table, like this. So now we have defined the table. So here the start table and the end of the table. And then here we have defined the header, which is company ID, company name, and website. And then here is the different records or values that we retrieve from the database. So we just use a for each loop, and we define this var company in model dot company list, because this company list that was created here contains a list of companies that are stored in the database. And then we have the different columns: company ID, company name, and website, like this. So I think this is more or less the code we need. So let's see what's happened when we run the code. I just now run the application, and hopefully it will work. If not, we will be able to fix the problems. So here's the startup page, company app. This company app will list companies from the database. When you click on this menu here, company, and here, yeah, basically we are retrieving data from the database. So here we have the company ID, 1, 2, 3, etc. The company name, USN, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and Apple, and the website, etc. here. Basically that's the same information that you find here in the database. Basically we have been able to create a basic ASP.NET Core web application using this Razor page, and we was able to install and use this NuGet package called Microsoft Data.SQL, etc. in order to be able to retrieve data from the database. We needed to create a class where we are writing some code in order to retrieve data from the database. And here in the web page we just created a simple HTML table where we was retrieving the data from the database. Before we are finished, we can make some small improvements. Here we have a website. Typically you want to have a hyperlink here, so you can click on these hyperlinks in order to open the different websites. Also here on the home page, typically here I can also, you have access to the companies here, but I typically also want to have a hyperlink here. This company app that will list all companies, so let's make a hyperlink here. You can click on in order to open this company page directly. So let's see how we can do that. So I'll just close it, and then I need to just open the start page, this index page, which we have here. So here I want to have a hyperlink. Then I can just use this built-in hyperlink feature in HTML. So then I just use href, which is the web page that you should open, like this. Then the text itself, like this. This is the hyperlink tag in HTML. So this is what is presented on the web page, and here you have the link to the web page that should be open. And in this case, it's just the company page which you have here. So this one. So let's just see what's happening now. I'll just run the application. Now you see you have a hyperlink here. I can click on this one in order to open this company list. So now either we can click on company here to retrieve the list, or we can click on this hyperlink in order to retrieve the list. In addition, we want to also have hyperlink here on these different web pages. Then I need to go into this company web page. So here the website is presented within this HTML table. So here I want also to have a hyperlink. Then we just use also the HTML tag here. A href equals to something like this. And then I'm going to present the URL here, not company name, but company dot of course I need to have this alpha sign, so company dot website, which I find in the list here. I also need to have this one. Also need to copy this one and put it here in the href as well, like this. Typically also, since the company name here specified in the database is missing this HTTPS, typically I just want to add it here in front. So I just type HTTPS : and / and www, etc. here, which is stored in the database. And then here the website should be presented on the web page. I typically also want to open this in a new tab inside my web browser, so then I can just type also a target here. Target equals to blank, like this. It means it should be open in a new tab inside your web browser. So now basically this piece of line should make sure that I create a hyperlink for each of the websites that are stored in the database, and then the user can click on it and that web page will be open in a new blank tab in your default web browser. So let's just save it and run it. So now we have the hyperlink here, or you can click here. And then also you see we have hyperlinks here. So let's see what's happening when we're clicking on www.usn.no. And then you see we go to the home page of USN. If we click here, google.com, we go to Google. Here we go to Facebook. And here we go to the Microsoft homepage. And finally we go to the homepage of Apple, like this. So basically, now we have created a quite advanced application where we are having a startup page. We have created a menu, we have a footer here, and we can click on the header in order to open a new web page where we retrieve and show a list of companies that are stored in an SQL Server database. And you can also click here in order to open the different websites for the different companies. So let's summarize. We started by creating a work database in SQL Server Management Studio, and we was inserting a table called company that has these different columns: company ID, company name, and website. We was also inserting some dummy data here. And next, we was creating this new web page called company, and we was able to install this NuGet package called Microsoft.data.sql client. Then later we was creating a folder called models and a new class called company, where we specified or created a method for retrieving data from the database, get companies, where we was creating or establishing a connection string to our database. we was creating a query to retrieve the proper data from the database, and those data was put into a company list. That was the return value from this get companies method, and we use that method inside the company.cshtml.cs file, which is the code behind file or page model file. So here we just created a public company list, and here we just specify an object of this company class in order to be able to use this get companies method, and we was returning the list of companies into this company list. And by making this public, it made it available here in the Razor page, company.cshtml, using this model.company_list. And since this company list contains a list of companies that are stored in the database, we was just using this for each var company in model.company_list, and then record by record we was presenting the company ID, company name, and the website as part of a basic HTML table here in this web page. So that's all. So thank you and goodbye, and good luck with ASP.NET Core with Razor pages. Thank you.